Welcome into episode 2 of the Packers Playbook series. Today, we're going to be looking at the formations that are used in this Matt LaFleur system. We're going to have details on lining up for the receivers and different positions. We'll have the base formations and a ton of adjustments, and then we'll finish with the adjustment terms for each of the positions. Now, as always, there's going to be information on the starting alignments to make sure that everything is precise as possible, because you need to know the base alignments before you know the adjustments. So this is going to be the strong side receiver will align off the ball when a tight end is present in the game. So if you're 11 or 12 personnel, the receiver is actually going to be off the ball. In extended formations, the outside receivers will align on the ball. Inside receivers can take the ball by play concept. So we're going to see that depending on what the concept is, right? Maybe you have the inside receiver running a corner and you've got the outside receivers that are running a double slant, right? You don't want that corner route to be on the ball because you might have the slant and that corner run into each other. Okay, as far as the position alignments, you've got the outside receivers +2, just means 2 yards outside the numbers to the field. You've got +4 yards outside the numbers into the boundary. And if they're the middle, then they're just going to assume the field splits of +2 outside the numbers, so everything is balanced. You can see it changes once they have trips, 3 receivers. Number 1 receiver is going to be 3 yards outside the numbers, and then the number 3 receiver is going to be outside the hash. And then you have the middle receiver splitting the difference between the two. So same thing with a slot receiver. If it's a 2x2 formation, split the difference between the end man on the line of scrimmage, the EMOLS, end man on the line of scrimmage, and the outside man. All right, so they don't necessarily have a set marker or landmark on the field, but they just split the difference between the outside guy and the tackle or the tight end, whoever's there. For QBs and backs, under center, halfback will align at toes at 7.5 yards. Fullback will have their heels at 5 yards. Same thing in gun. QB will have their heels at 5 yards. Running back is going to align in the B gap with their toes breaking the plane of the quarterback's heels. So he'll be a little bit staggered, a little bit behind the QB, but off to the right in that B gap. And then pistol alignment is slightly different. QB's toes are going to be at 4 yards, so it's going to be just a slight step forward instead of having the heels at 5 yards. And then the toes are at 7 yards for the running back. So that's going to do it with just the starting alignments of the receivers, the QBs, the backs, before we get into the description of the formations. Now we'll get started with the formations. And it's going to start out with the 2-back formation. So your 21 personnel is what we're going to see here. Eventually they'll go into 20. But there are a few different ways that offenses set up their systems. And in this system, they're going to have a few base formations and then a lot of adjustments off of that. So on the left side here, you're going to see the 2-back, the regular formations. We've got I formation, strong, weak, red, and change. Then you've got some 2-back adjustments, west and east, which is going to be a regular 1-back formation, but it's going to be used in this 2-back setting as well. So here we've got I right, the good old I formation. And of course, this is 21 personnel. So you have the tight end that is on the line, the Z receiver that is going to be off the line. Strong right is just moving that fullback from the I over behind the tackle. Weak right is the opposite. He's going to have a weak alignment opposite of the tight end. Right? So he's going to end up being over that left tackle if it is weak right. And you've got red right, which I don't think gets used much anymore. But of course, you've got halfback on the left, the split back formation. You got halfback left, fullback on the right, and then change right is the same thing, but fullback on the left, halfback on the right. Then you've got west right and east right. These are formations that they will usually use in 12 personnel. And usually what they're doing is talking to the F here, right? So west right is telling the F, hey, it's the West Coast, it's California, the weather there is nice, it's warm, get outside. All right, that's how they teach it. and you'll see that in the adjustment terms a little bit later on. But the F, if it's west, get outside. If it's east, it's the East Coast. You've got New York, you have Boston. Those winters get cold, so get inside of the Y. So you can see west and east, that's how they teach it. And that's just going to be those base formations. So you can see 2 backs in the game. That's what they're going to use. And then they have a ton of adjustments, right? You've got for the strong side, you've got close, closer, clamp, click, open, out, off. Weak side, you've got tight, tighter, slot, zoom, hip, hop. And then if you want to adjust both sides, you've got ace, book, and numbers. So there are a ton of adjustments for each of these formations. And this is only for 2 back, right? So you can just imagine everything that the players have to remember. This entire document that I've got, which is the 2019 training camp playbook. So this is before they even get into the season. It's the expectation of all these 90 players that come in and what they need to learn. This is 477 pages. 477 pages. They get it in June, and then they've got to learn it. So they have to master it by the end of August. And obviously, you've got the cut down days at the end of August for anyone who is not able to retain this information. Okay, so we'll continue just real quick looking at what each of these adjustments are. Close is a front side adjustment, right? So call side is right. So that close is going to be on the call side. Then you've got closer. So they're actually connected. Close is 5 yards away from the tight end. Closer is, oh, would you believe it? Closer to the tight end. Then you've got clamp. So clamp is going to be the Y off the ball and the Z closer, and the Z is going to be 5 yards away from the tackle. You've got click, where you have a stack formation that gets created. So the Z is still going to be 5 yards off that tackle, but then the Y goes outside to create a stack. Open is telling the Y, the tight end, to get into a flex position in the slot. Out is telling that tight end to get outside, and he will be on the ball. So you're going to have your tight end out wide. Off is telling the tight end you're going to be in your normal position, but off the ball. Tight, again, is a backside adjustment, weak side adjustment. So tight is telling the backside receiver, hey, bring it in. You're going to be 5 yards. Tighter, you're going to be on the line of scrimmage. Slot is telling the Z to flip over to the slot on the opposite side. So you can see a lot of these adjustments in action, and they're going to show another example of slot here on 11, right? So you're going to have the 2 tight ends, or potentially 2 backs here because it's 21 personnel. So this F would be a fullback, but in the Packers offense, that F is going to be a tight end, right? So you've got west, right slot. So normally the Z would be out here off the ball, but instead the slot, he's going to move in over here. Zoom, he's going to be the number 1 receiver on the backside. Hip, right, is going to be the inside receiver, which is on. So the Z is going to be coming back to the other side, and he's going to be on the ball. And then you've got Hop, who has the outside receiver on the ball. And then Ace is going to be their designation for bringing both sides to 5 yards off the ball. And then you've got Book, where they're going to be 1 yard or 2 yards inside the numbers. So it's going to condense the formation a little bit. And then you've got numbers, where the receivers on both sides, no matter where you are in the middle of the field, are lining up on the numbers. And we're going to fly through the rest of these because there are a ton of different formations. I'm not expecting anyone to remember these, but of course, you've got your 3x1 formations, which are going to start with T, trips, trio, train, trout, tracks, and each one is going to have a different designation for the receivers that are there. So your base trips are going to be the Y, which is, this is 11 personnel. The Y is going to be on the ball. That's a tight end. So you've got trips with the F over on the right with the Z on the strong side. You've got trio, again, which is pretty much the same, but the F is going to be on the far outside with the Z on the inside. Train, now you have the Y, who's the number 2. The F is the number 3. The Z is on the ball. Trout, You're going to have the Y on the ball, the Z off the ball, the F off the ball. Tracks, you're now flipping the F and the X, right? As if this is trio, right? But you're going to be tracks. So that's telling the X, hey, we've got to be over on the trip side. And then you've got the front side bunches, right? Front side bunches are all going to be with a B. And this is just changing who's going to be in the bunch. So regular bunch, bin, buddy, box. Buddy, or you can see bunch, you're going to have the F on the ball. Bin, the F is moving inside, so flipping with the Y. Buddy, you can see it's just this rotation counterclockwise. Z is on the ball, F is off the ball, Y off the ball. And then box, you're going to flip that over, and the X is going to take the number 1. So just different ways to get players in different positions. All right. So if you've got an X receiver that is very dangerous, you can move him around, just like we had with Devontae Adams for the longest time. You want to be able to put him into different positions where he's going to be successful. All right, so moving that X receiver around, moving other receivers in the slot around is going to be very, very helpful. Now we're going to get into the one-back sets. And again, I'll just scroll through this. If you guys want to look at the formations in more detail, feel free to pause the video when you see one that you're interested in. But of course, we got 2x2 sets on the left, and then you've got the back side 1x3. So we saw the front side, right? The 3x1 on the strong side. Now we're going to see the other side, right? The back side with a 1x3, right? So the trip side is going to be opposite if the formation starts with an F, and then the same thing with a bunch. If it starts with a CR, then the bunch is going to be on the back side. All right, so we'll look on the right side first, because I've just started talking about that, but you've got fast, fit, and foot, right? And you can see you got fast. F is going to be on the inside. The X is out here. Can't see him on the screen. Fit, F is just sliding, flipping with the Z, and then foot, he's going to be on the outside. So it's just different ways on the back sides. Where is that F receiver going? Where is that primary adjuster going? Then you got crip, crack, crush, extend, which is pushing the bunch out to the numbers rather than being 5 yards away from the tackle. And then you've got cruise. So again, each one of these just changing where that F is going to be in the formation. Then we got the 2x2 backside, 2x2 stack, and you can see deuce right, dice right. So dice right is going to be their standard formation, usually an 11 personnel tight end, 2x2 with the Z, the F, the X. This is kind of standard formation. You've got Dixie, where the F and the X are going to swap. Dino is going to be dice with open. Dino, so dice open. And then the Y is now off the ball as a tight end. Then you've got stack right, south right, stamp right, swamp, sink, snug. So they're all different ways to get different stack formations on the back side. So stack, south, you can see basically the same stack formation. It's just the F, again, south, it's warm, get outside. All right, so you've got a bunch of different adjustments for each of these formations. Then we'll get into the special formations, which this one may be used still because we've got the pony package with two backs. So pistol bone right. You've got essentially a full house in the backfield. Seen that recently within the past couple of years. Haven't seen gold right. So red, change, gold. Haven't really seen much of it with the split back. It's very, early 90s, maybe even 80s football with the split backs like that. Okay, and then we'll continue. We'll just go through, again, more one-back adjustments. So some of these are the same, close, closer, off, right? A lot of these are the same adjustments. It's just now we only have one back, all right? So don't need to send or go through all of these adjustments again because it is exactly the same. It's just with one back instead of two backs, all right? So close, closer, off, clamp, all right? Click, open, out, tight, tighter, slot. So you can see it flips that Z to the opposite side. So he's going to be the slot side over here. And again, that's just to move that receiver. Maybe you have a Z, instead of playing him on the trip side, you have a matchup that you want if the defense is playing specifically a certain way against a 2x2 set, and you want your Z to have a mismatch. This would be a type of formation that you would use. And again, just keeps going with all the one back adjustments on the left. So hop, hop, hip, giving all those examples. And big personnel, you can see tighter, closer. They're just using those same adjustments with the base, right? Just to make sure that if you've got 22Z, you're going to have your 22 personnel with the Z receiver as well. And you're just going to make that, bring it in tighter. So 22X is 22 personnel, so 2 tight ends with 2 running backs, and you have your X receiver on the field. So they have specific position or formations for the big personnel as well. And I know we've seen, West right tighter. We've seen West right closer with the 3 tight ends. So I know those are some formations that still get used today. Then we'll get into 20 personnel. Again, very simple, I, weak, strong, red. These are all formations that we've seen already. So the base formations do not change very much. And then you've got, when you go into empty, it gets a little bit more complicated of the empty alignments for the H. So you have to be dice right A, so whatever your normal dice right A, or your dice right formation, right? So you've got the X, F, Y, and Z, but now the A is telling the H to get to the A position. So all these empty alignments, A, B, C, D, E, G, you've got to make sure that you remember those positions for the running back, because this is towards the strength. So that means the call side, if this is a formation to the right, then A would be here. But if this was a call to the left and you wanted the empty formation, then the A would actually be over here. So you can see how there's going to be communication issues when it comes to lining up in empty or in these formations, because there are so many small adjustments that these guys have to remember. Then we've got the adjustment terms for each one, and again, it gives you the splits that they need. So these were all terms that we saw: close, ace, clamp, click, right? It's telling them exactly where they need to be. All right, so each person, each position, hey, you're going to be the Z for this year. This is what you need to know. If you're the X for this year, this is what you need to know. All right, so I think the most difficult position is probably going to be the F, because there are so many different base formations where the F is flipping spots. And then you have the adjustment terms as well. That's going to do it for this video. Obviously, a lot of formations, not expecting anyone to remember them. Of course, when we're watching film, we're just focused on 2x2 set, 3x1 set, maybe quads occasionally, but definitely a lot for these guys to remember. All right, we've gone over just 16 pages of the playbook in this video, and you can see that this is a lot for these players to remember, and that's why they get paid a ton of money to remember this information in a very short amount of time. So thank you guys for watching. Of course, we'll have new episodes for the playbook series every Friday, and we should be going into the motions next week to add on top of all the formations that we've done, adding motion into the mix and making things even more confusing. So take care, guys, and thank you for watching.